Welcome. Hello. My name's Tom Stein Jr. and today we're going to be walking through a couple of things on level funding and how it can help your clients get to where they want to be, where they need to be, and where they're happy with you. The first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to cover what level funding is not and who level funding really is not for. So if you think about level funding, it's really for groups that are financially stable and have a consistent census throughout the plan year. So if you have a client who has a big volatility in their plan year census, I'm talking 10 to 80, 80 to 40, those type of shifts, think farms, or produce farms, think landscapers, those guys are going to have a hard time. Another group that level funding is not going to be for are people who are in really dangerous industries. So if you have some boys out of Alaska that are doing the deadliest catch, it's probably not best to put them on a level funded plan. Additionally, if you have a government entity or a non-ERISA group, then it's best not to put them on a level funded plan as well. Now, there's some ways around it. It gets difficult and kind of sticky. We don't do those at American Trust. Another group that you're going to want to kind of look at are groups that have high RX claims or high health claims. Those are not going to be a great fit for level funding. But if you hit those first couple of things, then we can start to move forward and look at what part of your book or what part of your client base is actually going to be a good fit for level funding, not just with us, but with all level funded carriers. We are ATA. We've been in the level funded space for 30 years, 35 years now. We were one of the oldest in the country, if not the oldest. We do it pretty darn well. Based out of Kansas City, and we serve from 5 to about 100. Some of the things that we do on our plans, we have direct contracting, we have dual, triple options, depending upon the size of the group. We can do HSAs, we can do embedded, non-embedded. We have 60 or so PPOs across the country, regional and national. We also have RBP. So all of our plans are very customizable and along those lines. We try to be as easy to work with as possible while remaining a conservative and stable company. When you think about health plans in general, the plan owner may know a little bit, but the plan members, they don't really understand the back side of it. What's important to them are going to be the benefit design. So with a lot of carriers, you'll have a tight option, and if you've been in the business for a while, you understand what platinum, gold, silver means, those type of plans. Well, with a lot of level funded carriers, with ATA especially, so if we offer it, you can put one deductible with whatever copay you want. Everything kind of shifts around. So that way you can get an apples to apples look at what ATA is going to come in at versus what their fully insured option currently is. This way you can go back to the plan owner who's a little bit more savvy than the plan member and say, okay, we've got these things that are going to be the same for your employees, but if we shift the carrier, we shift a bit of this cost and we put money back in your pocket, or we give you the potential for refund, or for the same money we can increase the benefit package. There's a lot of different things that you can take back to them. Now, you can do that with a PPO, you can do that with an HSA, you can do pretty much anything on our plans is customizable. Everything shifts around and we can copy or do apples to apples is a better way to say it. Additionally, there's one other option that a lot of people have been big on lately, and it's not without its drawbacks, but it's called RBP, reference-based pricing. We also have an RBP. That is a subject of another video. We will cover that in depth. Just here, I'll say one thing to the brokers here that don't know much about RBP. Please learn about it before you place it. It is an incredibly different product, and so you need to know that before you jump into it. All right, so whenever you're sitting down with your, that's good coffee. Whenever you're sitting down with your client, the plan owner, and you say, all right, we've got this benefit design that the employees like. Why is he going to like that? Why is she going to like that? Well, there are a couple of the reasons other than just cost. And the first thing is that they're going to see where all of these planned dollars, where all their money that they're paying every month goes. So it's a very transparent product. So you're you're going to get a report every quarter with ATA. Some other carriers do it monthly, some of them do it biannually, but you're going to get a report that shows where every nickel in that plan has gone. And that's a big, powerful piece for the business owner to see. And you say, all right, you've got, here's your renewal, and you've got 40 grand left. Holy smokes, how did that happen? Well, if we see it this way, really you've been paying an extra X number of $1,000 to the fully insured player for the last 10 years, right? And that's a powerful way to keep them on board and increase your retention. Additionally, you can avoid or get around a couple of the mandates that are inherent in the ACA. And if you look at those mandates, there are three big ones. There's community rating, there's 3-to-1 age compression, and there's also pre-existing condition. So if you look at those three things, together you're seeing a massive price difference between healthy groups and the non-healthy groups. So if you have clients that are in the healthy bucket of people, then you can go to them and say, all right, we've got a tech company, you're 30 years on average age, you're all fairly healthy, we're going to be at, call it $300 a month for the employee, whereas the fully insured is putting you at $450. That is a big time spread between, and that's about as aggressive as it goes, but I'm cherry picking here. That's a big time spread between what your client would be paying and then the money that you're able to put back in their pocket by doing those level funded products. And the big reason that works is those three things. That 3-to-1 compression I want to highlight because from a field underwriting standpoint, it makes your guys' life so much easier. If you walk into your client and you get the census and it's 25 people and the average age is, let's pick a crazy number, let's say 60, then you're going to have a really hard time playing with the level funded carriers. And the reason for that is quite simple. Under the ACA and fully insured, it's a 3-to-1 rate compression, meaning that an 18-year-old can only cost 1/3 of what a 65-year-old costs. All right? So it's a big subsidy to older people. But in doing that, if you abide by that, you really punish with premium the younger people in the pool. So just remember, the ACA subsidizes the old people at the expense of the young. So if you don't want to pay that subsidy or don't want to penalize your clients, then you would offer them, if they have younger people, a level funded product. Now, level funded products come with a thing called excess loss coverage. It sounds complicated, but it's super simple. All excess loss coverage is a package on top of the plan that says if you have claims in excess of this, then the plan will be reimbursed in paying them. All right, it's insurance for the plan. It's stop loss insurance, stop loss policy. All right, there's two kinds. There's spec and ag, or specific and aggregate. Most people use spec and ag as kind of a colloquial term. Spec is for one claimant. Aggregate is for the entire pool, or everybody together. All right, so you have different options on where you want to place. With ATA, we only use A and A plus rated carriers. That's it. And there's other players out in the market, but that's all we use is just A and A plus. So speaking specifically about specific, specific is a reimbursement on one claimant. That's it. So you have a member who has a $100,000 claim and you have a $25,000 spec. The plan is going to pay all of that. But that $75,000 difference, right, that you're like, oh, what's going on here? That $75,000 difference is going to be reimbursed to the plan by the stop loss provider. So that's going to keep you or keep the plan level funded. Additionally, on spec, it's, in my opinion, specs become more valuable the larger the group. So if you have a 10-life group, it really doesn't, you don't need to have a spec unless there's a state mandate. You can get away with just an ag-only product and put a couple, 3 more points, maybe 4, back in the plan owner's pocket. Deductibles on specs run from $7,500 to $50,000, and then we also have the ISL or the ag-only. All right, now varies by state. Some states have different mandates, and then we abide by it. Aggregate. Aggregate's the whole, right? We talked about the individual member. The aggregate is everybody together, all right? So on a large group, you may have an aggregate fund of $500,000, all right? So if you have a bunch of people who have $10,000 in claims, then you might get up to the aggregate. And then it works the same way that a spec does. They're reimbursed as they come. On that, aggregate claims can also include the RX and dental claims as well. So that can be kind of put in there. For you guys that have been in the business for a while, and for the folks that are new, what we do here is a thing called self-funding with stop loss, right? And the term level funded has really blown up. And everybody calls it level funding now whenever you have a smaller group. Some people call it alternative funding to level funding. It's really self-funding with stop loss. And then we put one more widget on top. And that's called monthly aggregate accommodation. All right. Those two things together are what makes it level funded. And that's the definition of that term. So it gives you a better idea of what's going on when people say level funded. And what that means is that if you have a $25,000 spec on your plan and somebody comes in and day one they have a $100,000 claim, that first $25,000 is going to come out of the claim account. But most business owners can't ride that out, right? So what we do is we put an aggregate accommodation on the top and we accommodate the plan, all right? And then that makes everything very level, no matter what the claims are throughout that plan year. Now, when you think about that, it's really simple. We're just accommodating to their claim level, and that makes it level funded. Now, there is one drawback of level funding, or one that we haven't mentioned yet, is that leaving these plans mid-plan year is painful. You don't want to do it in almost all circumstances, simply because this accommodation is going to have to be repaid, right? This is a 1-year contract, so if you do have any accommodation out, it's going to be there. And also, there's some early termination stuff that you have to consider as well. So one of the drawback of level funding or self-funding with stop loss is you really are signing on for a year, period. On your contracts, you can play with these. The aggregate's going to be named by our underwriting. You guys can play with the spec that you guys like. So if you want to play with different specs, we can play with that. Remember, that's all going to affect the rate. And then at the end of the period, you're going to have, and this is something unique to ATA, and there's a couple other carriers that still do it, but really, this is an older way of doing things. This used to be everybody, and now a lot of people are going away from it. We won't leave it. And that is, at the end of the plan year, you're going to get a refund of 100% of the unused claim dollars. So we treat the plan dollars as completely sovereign, and at the end of the plan year, it goes back to the plan owner. It's something we do that I'm pretty proud of. There's a couple other great carriers out there that do it, but then there's not. So something to keep in mind whenever you're looking at your cases and looking at the long-term effect of placing with one carrier over another, because as we all know, prospecting is no fun, right? But selling is really easy. So with level funded, if you have to resell every year, it's a pain. But if you're able to give them a refund with unused claims dollars, that sale becomes incredibly easy, and they prospect for you because they tell their buddies at the tennis club or the golf course or the shooting range, hey, I just got a check for $14,000 from my health plan, right? It's a really, really great prospecting tool. On our contracts, you're gonna hear a term called 1224, 1212, 1218. And that's just a way to talk about the periods between the incurred and paid dates on a contract. All right. This is something else that's a bit different on level funding, is that we have a window of time and then we're going to close the books on that window. That's why you're able to get the refund, right? So if you have a 1218, all it means is you have 12 months to incur and then 18 months to tell us about it. All right. And we're going to pay all those claims as long as they're medically necessitated, right? We're going to pay those claims as they come in. And at the end of that, we'll close out the account and then give the refund if there's money left. And last year we had 71% had money, right? So then that goes forward, right? But those are the numbers. Incurred, that 12, and then the paid, that larger number, right? And that's going to cover 95% of the options out there. There are one or two other ones, 1212, 1212 with TLO. Really, that's master level stuff. You can get a couple more nickels out of playing with that, but I really don't recommend that for novices. It's something we can talk about if you'd like to on the phone. I can walk you through it, but it is a bit more complicated. So you got to stay on top of things a little bit more. On funding options, we have really two options, and there's different reasons for both. Now, level funding is the one that 95% of first-year plans elect to take. The other one is called minimum funding. And minimum funding is a way for you to reduce the total amount of money that they have to pay month over month, as long as they don't have big claim hits. Now, why would you want to do that, right? Like, Tom, I don't want to do that to my client. I don't want to field these situations. Well, sometimes you'd like to, simply because they need a couple of dollars back in their pocket. That's a bad reason, right? But sometimes it does come up. The better reason is that the refund after year one, when you've got this refund sitting there, you can use those dollars, minimum fund, and then accommodate yourself. And that is a beautiful way to do it, so you keep all your money compliant, as well as put money back into the plan owner's cash flow. So it's a really cool way to do it. It's really simple. We can change them on request. Again, first year people, I really recommend level funding. Then after that, we can start to roll into a minimum funding with last year's refund. So speaking of last year's refund, there's a couple of options that you have. And we've already spoke about one. And that's the most common and the most simple. And that is to use those dollars on the current plan year. This is a great option. It keeps everything compliant, and it's still spent on the health plan. But there are some other options, right? And these options can be great for the broker, as well as the client himself or herself. So if you have a refund, let's say you have a refund of $20,000, and you've got a 35 life group. You go back into the business owner and you say, all right, we've got a substantial refund here. I've got 2 new fork trucks, basically, that I'm going to give you. So how do we want to use these? What's the best way that we can do this? So if we take that extra money and then buy ancillary benefits with it, there's no additional cost to the plan owner in terms of his cash flow for that year, right? But his people feel like they're being taken care of. That's option number 2. Option number 3 is to use the capital to fund later on expenses, not this year, but years forward. Kind of treat it like an HSA for your business, all right? Additionally, we can return it to the plan in the form of a check. Now, talk to your tax attorney if you want to do that. There are some compliance issues, and I really don't recommend that one. And then also, I mentioned this a minute ago, the 1212 stuff. There's another option here with 1212s. And again, you can get some more nickels out of this thing doing it this way, but it is more complicated. So those are your big options. We're going to run through a proposal real quick. On our proposals, it comes in a couple of different parts. All right. You have A, B, and C. A is your fixed cost. B is your claims bucket. And C is just the total. All right. It's not complicated. Now, what's in each part? In the fixed cost, that is the stop loss insurance, the stop loss policy, the PPO network, rental fees, telemedicine, commissions. Everything is inside of the fixed cost, with the exception of claims. And claims are in their own bucket, and we treat them as sovereign, right? That's the plan's money, right? So you have those two things together. So on this one right here, they'd be paying $11,400 a month, right? And that's their level funded premium. Additionally, if they have 0 claims, like nothing, then they're going to get back at the end of a run out period on this one, $49,000. Or if they have $1 million in claims, they're going to use all the money in their claims bucket, which is that $49,000. And then after that, stop loss is going to reimburse, right? So that's the general setup of the plan. And it's really, really simple when you think about it that way. Level funded is another option that really works well with younger, healthier groups that you can put big time percentages back in their pockets. And at the end of the plan year, most of the time, you can sit down and say, I've got a refund. What else can I do for you? And that's a beautiful moment because there's no more money coming out of their pocket, theoretically or possibly, and you're able to provide more value. Those guys are going to keep you around. I hope that gives you a decent idea of what level funding is. I've been doing it for, a lot of my life. So it comes as second nature to me. Feel free to reach out to myself. My email address will be somewhere around here. And we can answer whatever questions you have. Additionally, thanks for checking us out. My name is Tom Stein Jr. We're here to help and let us know how we can. We'll talk to you.